My name is Ingrid Guerra-Lopez. I am currently at Wayne State University in Detroit, and I teach performance improvement. And then, of course, the consulting work that I do, I guess, takes me everywhere, which is one of the great pleasures of my work. I guess my first exposure to HPT was, no surprise, through Roger Kaufman. I was coming from a background of philosophy and literature, and then I thought, oh, you don't see very many pondering philosophers sitting on a rock making a good living, so I said, well, psychology seems reasonable. And so I was doing, really good in the behavioral analysis kind of stuff, which was just so exciting to me, and it was the precision and the measurement, and it just, I really identified with that. So we had someone who came to talk in one of our psych courses and said, we happen to have this great program here at Florida State, and so I thought, yeah, okay, I'll try it. And I probably went through the program through a couple of courses, and then I took Roger Kaufman's Needs Assessment and Strategic Planning course. And I thought, before that I had thought, yeah, ISD sounds great, and it's interesting, and it's rigorous, and it's systematic. So what? Who cares? And then I got a chance to see Roger's work. And I thought, oh my God, this is it. This is, I don't have to be a pondering philosopher. There's a way to do, concrete, tangible, meaningful work all, under one profession. And I asked Roger, hey, will you be on my committee for my master's, exams and that sort of thing? And he said, sure, under one condition, that you stay for your PhD. And the rest is history. So that was probably my first impactful exposure to HPT, and it's really shaped who I am. Roger Kaufman's work has had a fundamental impact in my views of how things work in the world. It's also taught me not to open my mouth unless I can back it up with data. So, all those things kind of have let my interest with what I do right now, which is very focused on performance measurement and performance evaluation, and the use of relevant, valid, reliable, and complete data to make decisions. And so that's had a huge influence in me. I started out doing needs assessment work with Kaufman, and one of the things that I noticed that people had the most trouble with was that deriving those specific indicators in order to determine gaps. People have a hard time, at least the clients that we were running into had a hard time with that precision, with specifically what do you measure. And so I found that, well, that's kind of what I like doing the most. And so it was just kind of a natural transition for me to be focusing on the performance measurement. And then, I thought, well, how much can I improve what Roger does in terms of assessment? And evaluation was just a natural progression to me that was just really cool and complementary to Roger Kaufman's work. Another person who had a fundamental impact in my work was also Gary Rumler. I had the good fortune of working with him at the Sonora Institute of Technology in Mexico, along with Roger Kaufman and Dale Breathauer and Bob Carlton. And, I'd always talk to Dale and Gary about, my work in performance measurement. And I remember there was one correction that Gary made, and again, it was one of those aha moments. And he said, well, it's not a performance measurement system. It's a performance management system. The measurement is just, supporting that. And I was like, well, yeah, of course. It was one of those things where you sort of knew, but you didn't realize the depth and profoundness of that. And that was one of those moments that I look back in my career and just feel like it just floored me to, a whole new different level. And so, I, of course, was very exposed to Gary's work as well through the work that we did at the Sonora Institute of Technology. And I would say that, what I learned from that one phrase and that 1 second was just, it can't be prized. And yet, I still have this horrible regret that he offered, come out to the house and, we'll talk more and we'll brainstorm. And I never got the chance to do that. And that's probably one of my worst regrets. I think gosh, I learned so much in just one sentence that he said. How much more could I have learned in a whole weekend? So it kind of taught me to really take advantage of things like, the ISPI conference and any exposure that I had with people in the field that I really respect. And so I've always taken the initiative to kind of, be present and take advantage of interactions with those people and always learn something. So it's one of the great things about getting together in the conferences that is really meaningful to me. In terms of an HPT elevator speech, I don't so much have an HPT elevator speech. I guess I'm very analytical, so it's hard for me to simplify. I try, but it's hard. But in a nutshell, I just tell people that I help people be more effective. I just help with effectiveness. I help with productivity, and it could be building a table, or it could be improving a decision-making process that has life-altering outcomes. And so the process is the same. The science of it applies. I think, again, thinking about Gary Rumler, I think that he used to say, kind of like your body and somebody else's body has the same anatomy. Organizations have the same anatomy. And that's what I tell clients too in terms of the process. A physician can apply the same diagnostic process or the same, treatment process no matter what the individual. And it's, it's the same with organizations and with performance. So that's kind of how I try to explain. It lasts longer than an elevator. I usually follow them out to explain the details. But and so what I'm doing right now, again, as I said before, I'm really focused on performance measurement, performance evaluation. I'm getting really interested, and a lot of my work lately has been around the performance measurement and management systems, but not traditional types of performance dashboards. Again, stemming from my influence from Roger Kaufman, it's distinguishing these indicators that we track and distinguishing between indicators of means, the things that we do, the resources that we use, with indicators of outputs and outcomes. And the idea is that we're able to establish, documented relationships between the things that we use and do with the things that we want to accomplish. And so a lot of my work is around those two things, and with the initial, what I think is an innovation in a lot of fields, and maybe not for us, but so we have all this data, great, what do we do with it? And so a really important part of that is giving the people who are going to be making the decisions, the people who are going to be using these performance measurement and management systems, a performance improvement repertoire, right? So here's what you do with the data. Because it makes very little sense to spend all the resources to collect the data if it's just going to sit there. ACOF used to say that it's not the lack of data that's a problem, it's the overabundance of it, because then you have to sift through all this and then it just renders you immobile. So, allowing people to track the right data for the right reasons to answer questions that have been identified beforehand, right? And then giving them a very tangible process for using the data so that it results in measurable performance improvement. And so that's kind of, at the core of what I do. And I really wish that people would really understand the difference. One of my worst pet peeves is when people talk about evaluation. I'm going to do a survey of, X, Y, and Z, and I'm going to, just do interviews. And so you've picked the methods, right, before you've figured out what decisions have to be made, what questions you have to ask, and how does that relate to meaningful results for the organization at the various levels, as Roger would say, strategic, tactical, and operational. And then you get into sources, and then you get into data, and then you get into methods. So there's this whole foundation that we just kind of ignore, and then we say, well, I make data-driven decisions, except your data is probably not relevant, reliable, valid, or complete. So that would be that's kind of one of the key messages that I always want to leave people with. So that's it.